Hello there. So today I want to talk about the Civil Rights Act. The reason I want to talk about the Civil Rights Act right now is because I saw a video of somebody else who presented the Civil Rights Act to Congress and asked them to add political affiliation to that. Now, if you're a Republican, you might think that's a good idea because and she's a Republican and she finds that she's been discriminated against and she feels like that right now the issue of that we have of intolerance in this country, or it's not racism, but whatever it is, it used to be we had an issue of racism, and also gender issues and whatever it is, there's a bunch of inequalities going on that was just known in the society, and they decided to enact the Civil Rights Act because of that, as far as I know. And she decided, well, now we're having this big issue on the right with people being bigoted against Republicans. So let's add political affiliation to the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act states that it was enacted in July 2nd, 1964. It is a landmark civil rights and labor law in the United States that outlaws discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, and later sexual orientation. It goes on to, it prohibits unequal application of voter registration requirements, racial segregation in schools and public accommodations, and employment discrimination. Some of this I can agree with, some of it I don't. And the stuff I agree with, perhaps you want to keep that in play, go for it. Why not? The stuff that I disagree with, I would say we gotta fix. So I think we got, and political affiliation would go fall under things like employment discrimination, or things along the lines of businesses discriminating against other people based on their race and gender and all that stuff. It really depends on what we're talking about here. So if you're talking about a public business, a government business, our taxes are paying for this. Yes, every government employee, whatever it may be, job that's under our taxes paying for it, they should not be allowed to discriminate against any of these things. 100% agree with that. The problem here, it also puts itself in the private sector. The private sector is where our freedoms are supposed to be. The public sector they're supposed to be helping our freedoms. So that means that there are things, as far as I'm concerned, that shouldn't be in the public sphere at all. That's for another time, though. So she's talking about adding political affiliation there. I don't think we should add anything there. I think we should get rid of it. I think we should overturn the whole thing. I think the fact that I want to, let's say, make a business, and I could be taken to court, and it's a legal problem if I decide, let's say, I only want to hire white men or Jews or Christians, let's say, or a girl decides she wants to only hire women and have an only women's business that's for women and ran by women. This says you can't do that, and that's not freedom. That's a problem. So simply put, my political views is basically minimal government as possible, and protecting people. This isn't really protecting people. This is more just like, well, we don't like it, so we're not going to do it. It takes away freedom. So if we're trying to go for freedom here, how is it freedom if, let's say, I'm a girl and I decide I want to run a girls business, and it's only girls stuff for girls only, and you're a man, you want to buy something for your wife. Too bad we don't want men in my business. I should be allowed to do that. You may not like that, but that's my freedom. And as soon as I can't do that, you're taking away my freedom from doing that. Now, let's say there was a time, which probably was the case, that this was all put in play for a reason. There was too much stuff going on in this society. Let's say people were literally against black people. Let's say, because I know we have a issue with race in this country on against black people. So let's say there was a time where black people just couldn't make it. There was too much discrimination. So I'd say, put these regulations into play temporarily, and if you see that blacks are making it, just get rid of it and take it from there. That's freedom. We don't have that in play right now. This was put in play in 1964, and that's it, and we're just adding stuff onto it there. We should be able to take away stuff because this country is for freedom. So we should be able to take away these things. We should be able to take away that a business shouldn't be allowed to do these things. Now we're going to take that away. You should be allowed to do these things now, because we know that we live in a society now where you got black people and Asians and women in every sect, in every industry. Doctors, lawyers, in the Senate, in the Congress. You got women and blacks and all people of all races and creeds everywhere. You think now if you get rid of this law, that's going to change? I don't think so. I don't think if it was a legal movement to abolish slaves. We don't have that. And if we're gonna keep saying that, it's not gonna make a difference, because we don't have a society where we have slaves. Same thing here. We don't have a society where people are doing this, and it's affecting black people. This woman going there, as far as I know, she's wealthy, and she's just trying to look out for other people and all that stuff. I understand, but at the same time, I don't know of anybody. I never heard anybody put out a video on YouTube and say, and I think it would go viral probably if it did, where I'm a Republican and I'm poor because I came out as a Republican. If that was the case, fine. There's legitimate grounds. We don't want people becoming poor because of their political affiliation. This is dangerous because this could be affecting people's families, it could be affecting people's health, it could be affecting different things. That's dangerous. So you put the regulations there, it makes sense. I'm not saying there's no time and place for things, but right now is not the time and place to decide we should keep these things going, and definitely not to decide to add things onto it. And I think this is important. I think we need to still keep the American dream alive, the American dream about having minimal government as much as possible, and the Republicans going out to the Congress and the Senate and trying to add more, I think is bad for the American dream. And we all need to try figuring these things out together, but let's not lose sight of the ball. Let's keep in mind, we need to keep the American dream alive and keep the freedom as much as possible. Adding political affiliation there, find the evidence first that there's Republicans or Democrats, whoever's being discriminated against, and it's actually hurting them. Find that evidence. I don't mean hurting them like they don't like it and they're being boycotted places. I mean, like, they're actually, like, losing their jobs. They're not able to make a living. They're losing their freedoms to be able to make a business, go to school. That's an issue. If a school is going to be discriminatory, a public school, let's say, because you're a Republican, that's an issue. That may be, so maybe there's room to decide, let's add this to the public sphere. But then that brings me to the other issue of public schools being in existence, whether we should have them or not. Whatever it is, this is all very complicated, but let's not lose sight of the ball. I think we're losing sight of the ball once we decide, let's go to government for all these things. And we got to keep in mind, American freedom is the site where we got to try getting to as much as possible. It's called the American dream. It's not the way of our life. It's a goal. It's a dream. It's something we have to strive to. We have to get there, and we will. We can get there as much as we possibly can, but we can't just decide we're going to keep getting more government involved, and that's the way to get there. If the Republicans are going to go out there and say, let's put the political affiliation in play and prove why it's necessary, they should also put in place a time and place where it's like, okay, here we have this stuff going on in our society. We see this is not hurting people, so we can remove it, and give it, let's say, a time frame for it, and see what happens from there, and try to go for freedom. Because once it's in, if they decide we're going to put it in play now without anything like this in play, that's it. We just took away people's freedom to run a Democrat business without potentially providing them the freedom ever again, or a business for just whites, or just blacks, or just whatever it may be. This is taking away freedoms. We got to overturn it, as far as I'm concerned, and fight for freedom more and keep the American dream alive. Anyhow, all the best. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, share. Thank you.